back to a brand new episode of Hello, I'm Listening with your main host, Dani, and your other main host, Woifi.
Oh, I see.
See? I'm nice.
I should have set up the blinds.
That's nice with the sun coming in.
It's a little too warm.
Your mom's a little too warm.
She might be. In a vag.
Let's not talk about your mom's vag on the podcast.
Today's topic, my mom's...
Comparing our mother's vages.
So, we have pictures here.
We'll post them on our Instagram. Can you guess which one belongs to my mom?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, but then we put your vag on as a comparison.
Oh, my vag.
Yeah.
My back vag. My brown back vag. My hairy brown back vag.
Is it hairy?
I mean, I'm not shaving my anus.
You don't shave around your asshole when you shave your testicles?
Not really, no. I don't shave my testicles that much, really.
I was going to say, you just added that much.
Yeah.
It's like you do.
Yes, once in a while. So,
Manscaping.
we have to quickly address something because in the last we didn't post sequential. Well, we post the wrong episode, or not the wrong. We didn't.
No, you talked about an episode that was coming next, and it wasn't that episode.
Right. I referenced an episode that was released before the episode, actually. So, yeah, that's what was happening. So
Okay.
the last episode where we talked about comedies that aren't made anymore, I referenced an episode that was released the week before.
Saying that it was being released the next week.
Yeah. So
I don't know that anyone really noticed.
but maybe people are like listening to this episode because they heard the last episode that this episode will be like crazy guest, and we don't have the crazy guest on.
So.
Like, not the guest is crazy, but a crazy cool guest.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not happening. But what we can say for sure, next week we have a really cool guest. She does something very, very unique, and we have no fucking clue about it, but we talked to her and it was a very cool interview.
Yeah.
Today.
What?
Today.
And today?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Today.
Today.
We're talking about climate change. Talk about climate change.
Climate change is changing.
So, climate change, you're here now, okay? Why are you here now?
Please go away.
No, climate change is in the studio right now with us. So, we gathered your questions to ask climate change. No, we're talking. We have you ever talked about climate change on here? Really?
Yes.
Did you look it up?
Translating Love.
Did you?
No,
look
but
it?
I didn't. But I remember we talked about it.
Really, like a full episode?
I think it was a full episode.
I don't think so.
Don't look back now. There are so many episodes,
No, I'm not
and we're
looking
not
back.
gonna.
I'm not looking back.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I feel like we did, but it doesn't matter. We've either talked a full episode about it, or we have talked about it in relation to another topic.
Okay.
But we've definitely touched on it.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
With consent, of course.
Yeah. The thing is, just to clarify two things.
What was that noise?
I don't know.
It was like a weird Fonz.
Yeah.
The thing is,
Two things to clarify. First of all, we are no experts.
Oh, I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
You studied climate change extensively?
No, I did an apprenticeship with climate change. Climate change taught me
to change climate.
Change climate.
Okay, got it. No, we're no. The thing is, I wanted to have a guest on to talk about it more, but we couldn't find one that fast. So if you know someone, or if you are an expert, and please not a self-taught expert. But, I mean, not really.
Let's not
No,
limit that, because there are people
I
who...
agree.
I mean, there are lots of people who have careers that are self-taught, and they're like experts in their field.
Yeah.
So
I agree. That was wrong. But maybe someone who like has an extensive knowledge, like years of knowledge on it, that would be cool. So if you are someone, or you know someone who has that and would maybe like to be a guest on a podcast.
Join us next week when Greta Greta Thunberg is
That would
on
be
our
cool.
podcast.
No,
That would be
but
cool.
and the second thing that I wanted to just say is that climate change is a fact. Climate change is not a thing that might happen or a hoax or some conspiracy theory. And we don't believe, there's no debate about it. And if you believe in that, you are totally free to believe in that, but it's not a fact, just to clarify that.
Just so you know, there's a web hanging all the way down behind. Yeah, you got it.
Got it.
It's really close to your face.
I just quickly want to give like a little, just to clarify what climate change is. I mean, it was known as global warming.
Global warming.
That's what it was called, I think, until like the mid 2000s, mid 2010.
I want to say even later.
2010 or something. And then they changed it to climate change because I think there was like
I feel like this is just a guess, but I feel like they changed it because too many people, like politicians and stuff, were coming out with like, but it's so cold.
Yeah, it's not really getting warmer, it's getting colder. Yeah, they hung up, like especially the right parties and the conservatives hung up on the warming part of the whole thing, not understanding the whole picture. Yep. So that's why they changed it. But main causes for climate change, I just want to go through them quickly and we can talk about it.
I was going to say, I also have something on that, but I have it. I looked up, like, explain it to me like it's a child, like I'm a child.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought that might
you do it.
be, it might be.
We didn't talk about it. I just got home, so we couldn't really talk about what we and how we're going to do it. So bear with us, people.
Wait, I just have to quickly find it.
Yeah, I'll entertain you, people. I am a child looking out of a window, and I see this dark place.
I've got it. So, imagine the Earth is like a giant blanket, and this blanket keeps us warm by trapping some of the sun's heat. But when we do certain things like burning fossil fuels or cutting down forests, we add extra layers to this blanket. These extra layers make the Earth warmer because they trap even more heat. Burning fossil fuels means using things like coal, oil, and gas to create energy for things like electricity, cars, and factories. When we burn these fuels, they release a gas called carbon dioxide into the air. This carbon dioxide adds more layers to the blanket, making it thicker and trapping more heat. Cutting down forests, which we call deforestation, also adds to the problem. Trees are like special sponges that soak up carbon dioxide from the air. But when we cut down trees, they can't do their job anymore, and the carbon dioxide they absorbed goes back into the air, adding even more layers to the blanket. Why are you taking a picture of me, or are you filming me?
It's a story.
Okay.
It's a story.
These extra layers of carbon dioxide and other gases make the Earth hotter, and that's what we call climate change. It causes problems like rising temperatures, melting ice, changing in weather patterns, and other things that can harm plants, animals, and even people. So to stop climate change, we need to find ways to use less fossil fuels and protect our forests. We can use cleaner and renewable sources of energy like the sun and wind, and we can be careful about how we use things that produce carbon dioxide. We also need to take care of our forests and plant more trees because they can help take some of the extra carbon dioxide out of the air. It's important for everyone to work together and make small changes in our daily lives to help keep the Earth's blanket from getting too thick. That way we can protect our planet and make sure it stays healthy and safe for future generations.
That was actually a nice way to explain it.
Right.
I would just want to quickly go into, again, causes that, because you already mentioned it, the fossil fuels, that's a massive thing. And the biggest problem of that is, in general, the companies who are responsible for that, because it's been known for, I think in the 70s, there was this massive thing about fossil fuels being super dangerous, and the fossil fuel companies basically know that, but they don't give a shit since it's generating a big lump of money. And and I don't even make the fossil fuel companies responsible for that, because the policies are not in place to prevent them from doing so. So if you want to blame someone, blame your politicians who don't do anything about it. But just to quickly go over other things, it's manufacturing goods. I mean, everything that releases any energy or CO2. Cutting down forests, you already said. Using transportation, even though transportation is a very, very small factor on the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Producing food, that's a massive thing globally.
Yep.
Powering buildings is getting less so, and consuming too much, obviously. In general, if you consume too much from everything, obviously that's a massive
you can also
footprint.
add to that list farming.
Yeah, that's
and
producing
raising
food, though.
animals for food,
That's
which
producing
release
food.
gases like
Yeah,
methane and
yeah.
nitrous oxide.
Yeah, that's all under that thing. The thing is, we already talked about being vegan a couple of weeks ago. You should definitely, I think, listen to that episode. We didn't. Did we talk about being? We talked about being vegan, but we also had Kerstin on the podcast talking about, being vegan, but also fighting for animals and fighting for their rights. So you definitely listen into that, but we don't want to preach that. Obviously, right now we talk about climate change, but if you that's the thing that a lot of people don't get, especially if people want to actually do something. The biggest thing you can do actually is not. If you have a private jet, maybe don't use it. But if you don't have a private jet and you don't travel extensively all the time by plane, which in itself is not that massive compared to food. The biggest thing you can do is basically just look what you eat, and in terms of CO2, what
the biggest
it
thing as an individual.
Exactly. So if you want to change something, and if you're still eating meat normally and don't think about it, then maybe you should, because that's a massive factor that a lot of people still don't see. Because again, policies are not in place to prevent us not buying food all the time, and also the meat industry and the dairy industry is still so massive in terms of advertising and stuff that obviously they don't want to be put into bad light. And I also get the factor of, okay, there are a lot of people depending on that money, on that paycheck coming from those companies. But if you destroy the planet by doing so, and also killing lots of animals, as a side note, you maybe should still be held responsible for that, and people should know that, and not just see the happy cow in the advertisements and say, oh, it's the fresh milk and blah blah. Yeah. The reason why did we want to talk about that topic? What was the reason behind it?
I don't know that there's at least for me, I don't think there was one main reason. We just talk about it a lot lately.
Yeah.
In general. Is there something that sticks out to you? Like, why?
The thing is, I wanted to do an episode like that, but with a guest, as I already said. Simply because I want to just talk more about it and inform people. I don't want to preach it. I don't want to think about it all the time, but it should be on your mind. And you should also be able to talk at least a little bit about it, especially with people who are not informed, who believe maybe in something else that is not true. And of course, I already talked with you about it. I listened to a lecture of a biology professor from Germany, I think 2 weeks ago. And he was talking about the newest climate report that came out at the beginning of this month. So it was brand new. And there were some new revelations and some new data from climate scientists all over the world. So it's not, I think it's over 100 or 200 climate scientists or scientists who collected data and updated the climate report from last year. And what they found out, just to paraphrase, I'm not quoting here, just to paraphrase, but what they found out is that the warming is going much faster than predicted, and you can see that in the global warming curves that you can basically find everywhere. And that if we continue the path and still we haven't cut down a significant amount of those emissions, then we will have a massive problem by 2050 already. So in 30 years.
An irreversible problem, probably.
Yes, and like things as predicted already, like certain cities, certain countries, certain even not only on the ocean side, but also like in the middle of Europe and also in America and some other places will not be inhabitable. I can't even say that word. inhabitable in terms of economic standards. So if you live somewhere, it should be economical. It should make sense economically to live there. So getting energy there, getting food there, getting producing food and stuff like that. And if there's nothing there anymore because nothing can grow, nothing can survive there anymore because it's either desert or it's too hot all the time, stuff like that, then you talk about that in general, where a place becomes not inhabitable or habitable, not habitable anymore, in that sense.
Yeah, the such a big problem is that this has been something that scientists have been talking about since the 60s, 70s, if not earlier.
In the we wrote a blog post where we that was actually interesting to write, to just go back in time and see when the first climate report came out. And it was early 1900s where they already found out that the industrialization is doing something with the climate.
And just typical classic human species. We, as a collective, I know that this does not speak to everybody, but as a collective species, we don't seem to give a shit until it's way too late. So, you hear people talking about the severity of this for years and years and years, and it only gets more serious every year. It's more serious that it's being talked about. And there are still people who they acknowledge it, and then they move on, and then they forget about it, or they just don't care enough. And it's just going to be one of those things where we're dooming our planet and we're dooming our species because people don't care enough to do something now. So they're like, oh, we have time. Just classic procrastination. And it's fucking sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. And it's not only, the thing is, it's just if I think back in my lifetime, the amount of heat, the amount of tropical nights, that's what we call when the temperature is not falling under 20 degrees at night anymore, which is how much Fahrenheit? 70 something maybe.
Something like that.
So that's a tropical night, and the amount of tropical nights we have each year is rising insanely. The winters we had, that's another thing. In Austria, we always had snow, and that's becoming less and less so. Usually, like when I was a kid, we had snow from October until February.
Like Wisconsin.
Like the whole time. There was a week or two where it rained and the snow was gone, but then it came back. And that hasn't happened anymore since, I don't know, 2002 or 2003. Stuff like that. And then you see now in summertime, we have those storms, those very severe storms where all of a sudden this massive amount of water is getting dumped on super dry earth, and obviously the earth is so dry it can't soak up that water.
I mean, our yard was like a swamp for a week, like weeks. Weeks after that storm.
And you can see it right now in Italy, in northern Italy again. Like last year they had massive problems, and again they have floodings everywhere.
But this is exactly goes back to my point about humans not really giving a shit, because unless it's directly affecting them, they don't seem to care. And again, I'm speaking collectively, because I know that there are people who actually care. But you hear about it's the same with everything. It's not just climate change. It's the same with school shootings. It's the same with elections. It's the same with it's literally everything. If people don't think it directly affects them, then they don't do anything about it. And the thing is, almost all of those things directly affect us. Almost all of them. There are not many circumstances like that where it does not directly affect you. You just are blind to see wide because you can't physically see it. You're like, put it behind you.
It's a massive ecosystem. And if, for example, right now in Spain, there was a drought I think it didn't rain for 4 months, something like that. Or when it rained just quickly and it passed. And Spain is like a massive export land for vegetables and fruit in Europe. Like in Spain and Italy basically just distributes fruit and vegetables to whole Europe. And they have massive problems growing their crops and everything, growing their fruit. And so this will affect us 100%. This will affect us in the way that other fruit will be more expensive. There will be certain fruit won't be available, all that stuff. I mean, it's not to say that it's super necessary. I'm not saying that we have to have strawberries all the time and stuff like that. We in Austria are very fortunate to have very good regional food and fruit and stuff like that. But even that, in Graz, in Styria, on the last weekend, 2 days ago, it rained so severely that massive flood and also hailstorms destroyed a massive amount of crops and food or future food. And so they predicted 4 to 5 million euros of damage, stuff like that. But it's what I see and what I feel like it's brushed over, even though you're affected by it, even though you're shit, my yard is flooded, or even worse, my house is flooded. The insurance pays for it, and 3 months later, it's fine. And that those things become more and more severe. And at some point we all have to change things. But the sucky thing about it is that it's no fucking politician has the balls right now to stand up and say actually what has to be done. And that's so frustrating to me, because if one country would start cutting things severely, I'm not even saying that you can't do certain things anymore, but just looking at the main problems in their country and then and addressing them, and things would change then. And then at the same time also putting things in place to prevent certain things. But nobody does that.
Yeah, and it just going back to just plant-based diets and the effect on the climate. Yeah, I'll just read something again because I just looked up. If half the world's population, so half the world's population were plant-based, what would the effect be?
4 billion people.
And it says transitioning to a plant-based diet on a large scale. So not exactly half what I was looking for, but a large scale, could have significant and positive impacts on climate change, but it alone may not be sufficient to completely save the climate. However, it would be a crucial step in the right direction, and here's why. And there's 4 points here. Reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is livestock production, so animal agriculture, is a significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, including methane and nitrous oxide. Methane in particular has a potent warming effect. Shifting to a plant-based diet would result in lower emissions associated with animal agriculture, helping to reduce the overall carbon footprint. So that's point one. Second point, land use and deforestation. Animal agriculture requires extensive land use for grazing and feeding production. This has led to deforestation in various parts of the world, which contributes to carbon emissions and biodiversity loss. By reducing the demand for animal products, we could reduce the pressure to clear forests for agricultural purposes, allowing for forest regeneration and carbon sequestration. Third point, resource conservation. Animal agriculture requires large amounts of water, feed crops, and other resources. By transitioning to plant-based diets, we can reduce the strain on water resources and allocate more land to growing crops for human consumption, potentially improving food security. And the fourth is methane reduction. Livestock, especially ruminant animals like cows, produce methane through enteric fermentation, which is digestion. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas with a higher warming potential than carbon dioxide over the short term. A reduction in animal agriculture would result in lower methane emissions, thus contributing to climate mitigation efforts. And just in general, the whole thing about crops, I think that comes up a lot in discussions about being vegan, and them saying, you still have to plant all of these things for you to eat because it's plant-based, blah, blah, blah. But from what I remember, the animal population outweighs the human population.
Yeah, it does.
The animal agriculture population.
We feed more animals than we feed humans.
Exactly. We feed more animals than we feed humans, and they're eating things like grains and soy and all of that. But to feed that amount of animals it's an insane amount of land. I mean, not to mention the amount of land they need for the actual, the slaughterhouses and all of it.
No, there's this. I think it's about if we stop eating animals altogether, we could feed twice of the world, or I think 1.5 times of the world.
No, I think 3 times. I think you could end world hunger if everybody went plant-based.
So it's pretty insane to think about that.
And we also are aware, so I just want to add this, we are aware that there are countries where it's not possible.
Sure.
So we're not saying that the whole world needs to be plant-based. We're
No.
It's something that people need to be more serious about, I think, because it is, I think, in my opinion, the number one thing that we as individuals can do,
and it's easy,
to help save our planet.
It's super easy. There are so many companies who make great like substitutes right now, where you don't have to never eat meat things again. And it's the massive thing is just about if you have a choice. If you go out, eat somewhere, if you go to a grocery store, maybe just get the vegan burger. Maybe try the vegan pizza or something like that. You know, you don't have to always get the stuff. And if it's just for 3 times or 4 times a week where you eat plant-based, then that's a massive step in the right direction.
And, you know, something to think about, a lot of people, when we first went vegan, a lot of people, there were 2 things that they would say. One was, what do you eat?
Yeah, sure.
But I think you would agree with this, we eat more variety than we did before we went vegan.
100%.
So, you know, you do have to learn. There's a learning curve to it. You have to learn how to cook. And you're not always, you have to be able to balance your meals nutritiously. But, you know, you don't need to be buying all of the quote vegan substitutes for your meals. We almost never do. We very rarely buy them. And everything we cook is just grains and legumes and veggies and
rice,
fruits,
noodles.
And you would not believe the variety of things that we eat from all different cultures, from all different. It's amazing. Yeah. And there was a second thing that people ask us. Oh, the second thing that at least I've heard a lot is, but how just me doing that, if we go out to a restaurant and I decide, okay, I'm going to have the vegan meal this time, what does that really change? It's one meal, one person.
Yeah.
And while that makes sense, you also don't know who you're influencing when you do that.
That and also demand. It's about demand.
And demand. Yeah. Exactly. The more that people do it, the more that those things are offered.
And get cheaper.
You know how so many of our friends have slowly started to incorporate more vegan choices into their daily lives. Like they stopped drinking milk and now they have plant-based alternatives, or they don't eat meat anymore. They don't eat cheese anymore. You know, you would be surprised at how many people you can influence just by making those choices once in a while. The
future is plant-based, and that's not just a saying or an advertisement. That's just a fact. And change is coming. And if you look at the amount of vegan food that is sold this day compared to 10 years ago, it's a steep climb up.
Yeah.
The question is just what are you willing to do right now, and not for yourself necessarily, but maybe for your children. And if you don't have children, which is totally fine, then maybe for your aunt's children or your friend's children or still any future generation.
Any future generation.
Because that's what it's about. Right now, it's still fine. Right now, we can still survive. Yeah.
But we can't say that the generation that we bring into the world when they're 30, if they make it to 30.
Right. There will be a significant problem sooner than later.
Yeah.
And right now, with choices like that, because the politicians are not doing it, we have to step up and say, okay, that's a choice. I'm not going to eat meat today. I'm not going to consume dairy products today. That's a choice. Yeah. And if I can do that 3 to 4 times a week, that's a massive thing again.
And if you don't do it for the animals, which not everybody does, then do it for the climate. Do it for the planet.
Do it for your health.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are so many benefits and so many positives that come from it.
I think that's also something that people overlook all the time. There's so many benefits, and I think I've never heard anyone say who went vegan, like really vegan, who was not like I'm going to try it out, like who really went full on in, said that they regret it. Everybody said, and
I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yes, I wish I would have done it sooner. Yeah. And I remember myself laughing at a friend of mine who was vegetarian in school. I was like 16 or 17, and we were laughing at her. I wish I could go back and punch myself in the face and say, you are fucking stupid, because that woman is actually doing something right, and you're laughing, and you should do the same.
Do you remember even shortly before we went vegan, probably 6 months, 8 months, something like that, before we went vegan, we were starting to kind of think about it because we met somebody, shout out to Martina. We met somebody who was vegan. And
I remember saying I could never do that.
That's what we said all the time. We were in awe of her for being able to do it.
And she pushed us kind of a little bit.
I could never do that.
She didn't push us, but I think she inspired us a little bit.
I think she absolutely inspired us. When I think about like part of the reasons I went vegan, she's a really big part of that.
100%. Yeah.
But that's also, that's a small, it's a big but also small portion of the problem. That is obviously something that you as an individual can do. Something else that you as an individual can do is, and we'll talk about this more with a guest soon, so I won't go too much into it, but fast fashion.
Oh yeah.
Consumerism is an absolute killer of the planet. Yeah. And we will talk more deeply about why that is when there's a guest that we're having on that will probably go into that a bit. But, you don't need to buy, especially clothing all the time. There are people who twice a week they get new clothes, or once a week even they get new clothes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The amount of waste and energy and resources that goes into producing those clothes at the rate that they're produced is unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So just as a tip, we'll talk about it at some point, but as a quick tip, maybe instead of, there's something wrong with wanting to have new clothes. I enjoy it as well. I think there's nothing wrong with it, but maybe try secondhand. There are so many online shops that sell secondhand clothes that are like hardly touched because people just get rid of shit so quickly. Yeah. And, then you're not contributing to the resources that went into to making those clothes.
If you want to buy new, there are lots of brands who do, things that are produced without a carbon footprint. They're produced from natural things. They're produced not in a fast fashion manner. They're produced when you order them. Mm-hmm. All that stuff. So, and there are also materials that are not just shit, like basically just plastic that you wear, but things that grow faster, like hemp, for example.
And the thing is, those things tend to be more expensive. But I will tell you this much:
they hold up much.
There's that for sure. But there is a company that I absolutely adore that's based in Australia. And it's a woman-run company. It's small. Everything is made from plants. So all of the clothes are made from plants. They're plant-based, and the dyes are plant-based. Nothing is harmful for the environment, and you pay for that.
Yeah, sure.
However, when I decide I'm going to get something from them, that is like, I won't buy any new item of clothing for months after it, because that's the thing I want to put that money into. And you appreciate that clothing so much. Like, it is insane how much joy you get from it, because you're doing something good, but you're also, you're supporting something good, and you paid a lot for that, so you appreciate it. Whereas if you go to H&M and get this €8 top, you might wear it twice and be sick of it because it was only $8, or it falls apart. Exactly.
And their marketing and their fast trends, like every other week there's a new thing in the shelves and stuff like that. It's just made to make you buy things. It's just a way to make you addicted to shit like that, and
but I can seriously recommend just look up wherever you are any online secondhand company, because a lot of them do things like the one that I use, where you can sell your clothes there too. So you can send your clothes in. That's what I always do. I send clothes in that I don't want anymore. I buy clothes from them using the money I made from selling my clothes there. And so it's just this nice give and take where you still feel like you get something new, but you're not contributing to this massive problem.
I mean, that's a whole other topic. We will make a podcast on that anyways. But the general thing is just in terms of what you consume, you should look what you consume. Do you really need that?
What is the carbon footprint of
what
the
is
thing
the
that
carbon
you're buying?
footprint? And that's not something that that's just fancy or stupid to do. It's necessary. And not to
and
say
what are
it-
the working conditions of the people who have to produce it? I mean,
obviously,
that's another thing to think of.
and not to say that you have to not indulge in things anymore, but just be more aware of it. Yeah, that's the things you can do, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And write to your government officials and, your local government. Call your government officials. I know that it's shitty and it sucks and it feels like it's not going to bring anything. But the more people that do it, the more people do it, the more they're going to be like, okay, I'm getting annoyed with this. We should do something about it.
Yes and no. Yeah, maybe. I think your vote is more effective with the payments you put in. So if you pay a vegan meal or a vegan company money, it's way more effective than talking to politicians right now because they just don't give a shit.
Yeah, but you also have to push politicians because
obviously-
without the politicians and without the government
obviously-
help, we won't get past this
No,
issue.
no, obviously not.
They
But
have to put things in place.
They will wait until the whole fucking or half of the earth is burning and then
But
maybe.
that's exactly what I'm saying. Why not make a fuss now then? If everybody made a fuss, you can at least try. It can't hurt.
Yeah.
Put in 10 minutes.
And more. Maybe. Sure. Yeah. There's still so much things to talk about, and I kind of want to do that again with like someone who actually has more knowledge about the whole thing. We can ask questions to, and maybe we find someone who is willing to do that. If you know someone, again, tell us. It would be nice. Other than that, please consider subscribing, sharing the podcast. That helps us a lot. Just hit us up on our Instagram if you want to. We love to hear from you. On Spotify, I found out you can just quickly say how you like the episode and we can read it. And that helps us a lot too if we hear some feedback from you. And yeah, if you want to support us otherwise, you can head over to our Patreon page. It's in the link in the description. And meet Joe. He's a Patreon and he likes to have... Hi, Joe. And he likes to have some company.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Until next week.
Watch out for deer.